and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam for the third episode today. Let's see if my phone's battery holds out on this, because that's going to be the big question of the day, isn't it? Because my phone's at 10%. It is currently plugged in, but if anyone has ever charged their phone in a car, it's not exactly the most stable of charging situations. So let's find out how far we can get in this. If it starts getting low, I'll just end the episode abruptly, and you'll hear it when that happens. We're talking about Bros, the first gay rom-com with Billy Eichner writing and starring in it. All right, so the percentage is going up at least, so we're tracking in the right direction, which is nice. So it's what do I want to address with this? Because the movie's good, it's solid. There's nothing about it glaringly and aggressively bad. I have a few notes though, as always. For starters, I would have liked to have had a little bit more. Well, I think they did enough of it. I mean, I think the problem is the way the movie's kind of structured kind of stands out a little bit to me. I feel like the whole lead-in to the relationship is a little much, and then it transitions into the relationship kind of late into the movie, so we don't get a ton of time of them in a happy relationship, and a good amount of that time that we do see is montaged through. Now, that's not necessarily strictly the worst way to do it. I just would have preferred a little bit more time seeing them in a happy relationship, so that way the emotional impact of the breakup doesn't have quite the obligation feeling that it does in the movie. Like, it's a rom-com, so you have two people who aren't going to be in love, unlikely, then they meet each other, they fall in love, there's a fight, they break up, they get back together, happy ending. And it's a formula, it's tried and true, we've seen this before a million times, and it's basically what happens in this movie, is it's, that thing. The problem is we spend too much time, I think, with them kind of not being super thrilled with each other. So that way, by the time we get to the third act and we get to the point where it's time, we're midway through the second act, when it's time for them to break up, it's like we don't have enough time really to get on that and like really get an emotional gravitas behind that, because both of them are so flippant, and I guess that's part of the characters. I do, that's not lost on me that it is part of the characters, that neither of them can express their emotions properly, but at the same time, it would have been nice to have had a little bit more time with the good times, instead of what feels kind of like rising action leading into that whole situation. Like, it feels too much like we are building towards the relationship, and then by the time we get to the relationship, it's a quick montage, then a fight, then a breakup. And I would have liked a little bit less time with them broken up, because it's not like if it's something where it's playing with your expectations, where they don't get back together or something like that, then I'm sorry. It's just obnoxious if your engine sounds that loud. If you're watching the movie, and the point of the movie is it's going to get around that, and the point of the movie is we're going to subvert expectations, then I can kind of understand the idea of having him be, like, having that breakup section be so long. And I think, too, it's like, I understand why they didn't. I mean, there is a case to be made that the movie could have gone with a route where the idea of getting your self-worth from yourself and not your relationship to someone else could have worked in the confines of this movie. But at the same time, because of how addicted to his job and his life Billy Eichner's character is, I feel like that's an important kind of thing to flip and to have him settle down, for lack of a better word. The movie is really funny. The comedy aspects work very well, and it does have some of the best laughs in a movie this year. And on a technical level, the only issue I have one issue on a technical level. There are some janky edits where it's cutting from person to person in a conversation. It's very obvious we are listening to voiceover while it's cutting back and forth, and the people who are talking and visibly talking are not actually saying the words we are hearing, because it's out of sync. And you can tell that at certain points in the movie. There are a few janky edits later on. Like, Billy Eichner has a great moment late in the movie where he's talking about confidence and where confidence comes from. And it's kind of a monologue. And I don't think this is definitely something where it's going to be one of those mileage may vary things where certain people it's all down to personal taste. Me personally, I don't think you need to see the reaction from the person he's talking to. I don't think you need to see. I think having, for a scene like that, the camera just on Billy Eichner and just having him deliver that. And I think that's another problem too, is that it doesn't feel like Billy Eichner's playing a character. It feels like he's just playing the real version of himself. And then when you get into this monologue, that really drives that home, because the monologue he's giving is about the walls he will put up in front of him, where it's like, you can't do this because you're too flamboyant. You can't do this. It's too niche of a market for you to write for this. It's all things that are like, oh, okay, so these are all things that, like, when he's saying it, you can tell these are all things that really happened to him. And it's really Billy Eichner's moment in making the case for a strong acting performance from him comes from that scene. I feel like the cutting away doesn't add anything, especially considering the cutting away scenes are all kind of random, and it's very obviously it's easier to cut together one really good monologue that on audio and then cut back and forth with various footage. It's definitely easier to do that. Me personally, for a moment like that, especially when the person he's talking to is not reacting visibly, like, that was the thing too, is that he's wearing sunglasses in the scene. I forgot his character's name, but he's wearing glasses. He's wearing sunglasses. So he's not emoting, really, or reacting. It's kind of just, the monologue is kind of just falling on him and kind of just happening to him. And he's just listening to it, but the cut in that scenario, for me, should be to help drive home the emotionality of the scene. Which I don't think emotionality is a word. It is now. Should be trying to drive home the emotional point of the scene. And if we're cutting back and forth to him, to Billy Eichner, and then back to him, and then back to Billy, like, it doesn't really land. And you could end up with a better cut of the scene if you just leave it on Billy Eichner as he's delivering that monologue. And that's not even one of the janky edits I was really talking about. I mean, there are times where it's like conversation back and forth, and it's cutting person, and it's like, or the person really quick while they're talking, and it's like, well, why do we need to jump back and forth this much? I don't think we necessarily need to do that. I don't think we're adding anything to this by jumping back and forth that much. It is an interesting kind of, it is an interesting thing, and I feel like that's the kind of thing that is more, the audience will have, you will have your own take on that, but I feel like some of the edits are a little weird, and not quite as well dubbed as they could have been. What else was there? A good amount of stuff in the trailer is not in the movie either, which is fine, but, I mean, the movie is, and that's the thing, is the movie is On a technical level, it's great, and I really like that. It doesn't feel like this was written for it doesn't feel like it's written for a man and a woman, and then it's like, well, what if we made him gay? Because the things that get dealt with in this are inherent identity issues, and issues that come along with masculinity. Like, there are scenes that have awkward endings between the two, because what'll happen is you end up with these two guys who, neither of which know how to properly express their emotions, and that's what leads to the big emotional hit at the end of the movie when they're learning that part of it. The learning to communicate and all of that really works well for what the movie is. I think that's all I have to say about the movie. It's pretty good. I mean, it's a great probably date night movie. I think it works very well. I thought the podcast thing in the beginning was going to get on my nerves, but thankfully it wasn't a framing device. It was just a beginning thing to get us through the exposition about who he is, and I don't think we really even needed all of that, to be honest. I mean, the movie definitely could have been shorted. There are definitely places where you could have cut. And it's like, I get what they're going for, and I get all of that being there, but you don't need to have the explanation as to who he is could have been better exposited throughout the movie, and instead of doing what basically amounts to a Tolkien-esque info dump in the beginning of the movie, being like, and here he is, and here's why he doesn't date, and here's him hooking up on Grindr, and at least some funny moments. But again, would have been better if it was a little bit more, what's what I'm looking for? If it was a little bit more interspersed throughout the first act, rather than here's everything on Front Street. Not bad though. I mean, the movie's not bad. So we will wrap up there for today. I would check it out. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's worth seeing in a theater. And by the way, I'm getting a little annoyed at AMC. And we're getting off on a tangent here, so strap yourselves in. I'm getting a little annoyed at AMC. My AMC theater has been having renovations since around the time Lightyear came out. So I want to say that was June, mid-June. It is now September. And because I saw Jurassic World Dominion in, I saw Jurassic World Dominion in a theater, in the IMAX theater. That was the last IMAX movie I saw, because the IMAX theater has been closed ever since. So I'm at the theater, and it's still not done yet. The lobby is still a clusterfuck. Everything's around the concession stand. When I went last week to see... What movie did I see last week? I forgot what movie I saw last week. But whatever movie I saw last week, when I went there, they had torn up part of the bathroom. And there was... Where the sink would be, that most of the sinks were completely ripped out. And there was just a... what's it called? There was just a giant, empty space where those sinks were. And then that was replaced with, what's it called? That was replaced with, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's still not done. And it's been a week. And I'm like, you would think the bathrooms would be something you'd want to get done. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this, and I get into my theater today. And keep in mind, it's a 17-screen theater that I go to usually, which is great because it's the biggest theater in the area. But I think the only theater that's bigger, I'd have to go into the city for. And I'm not going all the way into New York City to go to the movies. I can go to, there's another one that's a 16-screen theater, but I got to pay each time out of pocket for that, which, that's a non-starter for a good amount of, reasons. But I'm looking at this theater, and they haven't finished most of the screens yet. So of the 17 screens, 11 are closed currently. And these 11 theaters have been closed since June. And they're not done with the remodel yet. And I'm just like, well, what the fuck? Are you going to be done? And that doesn't even get into the fact that I'm fairly certain someone fucked up the Dolby Cinema, because the seats used to have subwoofers in them, and I don't think it's working anymore. And there are so many fucking AMC ads that run before the Dolby Cinema. Someone doesn't know how to order the thing there. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And it's the kind of thing where it's like, you forget about it by the end of the movie, but they're running both the regular AMC and then the Dolby Cinema AMC, like, please watch your step things, and they only should be running one of them, not both. And part of the problem is, I don't think they're playing the Dolby Cinema cut of the movie. I think they're playing the base cut of the movie in the Dolby Cinema screen and still upcharging you to the Dolby Cinema, but I can't prove that or anything. I guess it's the seats aren't vibrating, and something's fucked up. I don't know what it is, though. So all of that notwithstanding, I'm watching this. What's it called? I went today, and I go to my theater, and it's one of the bigger theaters that they kept open for the new release. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go in, and I was way early. I was like 20 minutes early, and they usually don't turn on the Maria Menounos movie crap until about 15 minutes before. So I'm sitting in this theater that's reasonably well lit because it's before the showtime starts. And on top of that, in the front of the theater, like, both the doors were closed, so I had to open the door to get in. And in the front of the theater, they had materials to renovate the theater, laying down in the front. And it was these giant boxes and crap in front of the, in front of the theater, in front of the screen. And I'm like, what the fuck? You didn't even finish the other ones. Like, the theaters that have been closed for months are still not done. Are you going to close down more theaters over here now? Like, no. Like, finish what's not done, what you've been working on. I just don't get it. Like, I saw this and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And you know, I asked AMC, I emailed them about a month ago at this point, and I was like, you know, cordially, what the fuck? Like, I didn't say it like that. I was like, look, I mean, I go to this movie theater, I have A-list, and I don't like to flex that, but it's like, I feel like it's kind of like how Sony has that new thing with their rewards program, where if you spend enough money, you get faster customer service. So it's like, you whip out the A-list card, and you're like, hi, I have A-list, can we talk about why the fuck the theater has been down to 6 screens, and I'm still being charged a fucking premium? Like, that's the problem, is that because the theater's down, like I don't have a problem paying the premium rate, because at 17 screens, you are getting, if a movie is coming out in a theater that weekend, you are seeing it in that theater. The only movie that I've had to go out of the area to see was in 2019. I had to go all the way into Manhattan to see Fast Color. I had to go to the AMC in Times Square. But besides that, every other movie comes out there. Foreign movies, Lifemark movies from fucking Kirk Cameron. Like, if the movie theater wasn't closed down to 6 screens, I'm sure Clerks 3 would have screened there. They do Fathom events. They do the anime shit. They do anything. Anything that's coming out is playing in that fucking theater. And yet, you know, that's why I don't have a problem paying the $23, because that's the one I go to. And I have the ability to see movies that many people around the country do not have that same accessibility for. So I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. What does bother me is that I'm paying this premium rate, and I because I'm in proximity, I guess, to the one in Manhattan. Well, like, that's what I have the problem with. Like, I feel like I'm going to send them another email and be like, look, I don't want to sound like an asshole about it, but, like, I'm being paid, and there's a price increase too. Like, I'm paying this much money, and you guys are, you know, I have no idea when this is happening, when you're gonna have this done. Like, it got to the point where I'm like, should I just get the Showcase Pass too, just for a few months, just that way I can go back and, like, know what, like, have the accessibility. But whatever, regardless. I think that's it for today. So we got She-Hulk tomorrow morning. We have, Hocus Pocus 2 Saturday morning. And anything else comes up, it'll be on the feed. So until then, have a great rest of your week.